From time to time, Cern Basher will set me up in the green room and give me some idea of what he's going to do today. But today, he's failed to do that. So I'm ready to be surprised. Are you? Hi, Cern.
Hi, Randy. How are you?
I'm well. And you have some surprises, or I mean, you didn't give me any idea of what your plan was.
Well, remarkably, you seem to know what the next slide's going to be. So
I bet
let
it's
me see.
A Cybertruck slide.
Oh, you're brilliant. You're absolutely brilliant. Now, for this one, I tried to find a Cybertruck that would match one of your shirts.
I see.
So I'm sorry that you weren't wearing one of your, flowery shirts today. That would
Well,
have
this
been
is
great.
it's the right colors. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I mean,
I have a
this
shirt.
isn't in Hawaii, and this should be like required for Cybertrucks in Hawaii to look something
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
Isn't that amazing?
Yep.
Yeah, and I could just sit and stare at this all day, but I guess we should move on.
Okay, okay.
All right. Let's see if I can figure out how to advance these slides. There we go. So I
Oh,
just need to put that up on the screen. All
let me
right,
ask,
back to
yeah.
Cybertrucks.
So I wanted to ask you though about that disclaimer slide.
Yeah,
Does anybody ever have a claimer slide?
good question. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should
It's a
look.
bit like bankruptcy. I don't think there's any rupsy. Your company is still rupsy. We didn't go bankrupt. So yeah.
All right.
I wasn't aware of this partnership, Randy, but apparently Toyota and Tesla have teamed up. It actually isn't a bad idea for Toyota. This would be
Yeah,
a good EV strategy for them.
it would be. Holy mackerel, that's amazing.
Yeah. Now, I wonder if this will fool any protesters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows? We'll see.
Maybe.
If you park a unmarked Cybertruck next to this one, which one would get vandalized? Would the Toyota
Is-
not be touched? Yeah. Anyway, so that was fun. We discovered a new use for a Cybertruck to test the depth of a swimming pool.
I see. Yeah.
And it,
And while it's empty.
yeah, yeah. In this case, the depth test worked perfectly. The truck found the bottom. The firefighter is probably a little perplexed how to get this thing out of there. I guess it's not their job to get it out, but they probably just want to make sure it's not going to catch on fire or something. Don't know how this happened. I don't know the story behind this, but I thought this was quite the image.
That's a winner. That's a, yeah.
Yeah, it's a sad day for whoever owns that truck. Now, the opposite of that, here's a very happy day for this couple.
Yeah.
They got their Cybertruck and they immediately went camping. And I thought this was a beautiful, beautiful picture.
Yeah.
The Cybertruck belongs in an environment like this.
Right. Yeah. 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 Looks like
So
looks like looks like in my neighborhood.
that's right. But not all is well in Cybertruck land, Randy.
Really.
Yeah, we've got some issues.
Okay.
So here, I like Tesla says, my Cybertruck seduced my wife. Dirty Tesla said, Cybertruck ain't seducing no one without FSD. And Cybertruck responded, wife of Dirty Tesla, any plans tonight?
Uh,
So
so you know
this,
about this. You know about this problem.
my Cybertruck seduced my wife as well, yes.
Yes. Yeah. This is something you're familiar with.
Yeah. Now, clearly the answer is to buy another one.
Sure.
And I guess Tesla's giving us a good chance now with financing at 1.99%,
Hmm.
which can be combined with free lifetime supercharging for a foundation series. So anyway, for those that are not aware or looking for a good deal on a Cybertruck, this might be a nice time to act.
So you're a big Cybertruck fan. We have slideshows every week from you on Cybertrucks. You bought early and well, and you're enjoying yours. Um, what do you think is going on with regard to sales? Because every morning I read headlines after headlines after headlines. Oh, the Cybertruck this morning that they shall be nameless magazine, or, online magazine, something about Trek. So was talking Drek, we should call it. Anyway, they were talking, that it was a bust. The Cybertruck's a bust. But I have my own theories. What are your theories about the future of Cybertruck sales?
Oh, I think the future of Cybertruck sales is pretty bright. It's an amazing vehicle, and I think it'll just take time for people to discover that. Um, I certainly, every chance I get, I show off my truck. I let people drive it, much to their surprise. Um, and the response has been incredibly positive. I haven't met anybody yet that I've showed the truck to that had a negative experience with it or said something negative about it.
Yeah.
Right. They might not like the look of it from the outside, but when I show them what it can do and how it operates and so on, they're very impressed. So I think that is good. I also think the Cybertruck has a bright future ahead of it in terms of a police vehicle
Hmm. Hmm.
and that kind of thing. And I think that's just getting started. In terms of why is Tesla offering these deals? Well, certainly they want to, sell the remaining Foundation series, right? So they're offering, they want to get those off the lot.
Right.
Um, I'm also suspecting, maybe just a little bit, and this is totally unconfirmed and very speculative, that there may be some changes coming to the Cybertruck.
Oh, interesting.
Now, maybe that doesn't make sense with the rollover that they're doing with the Model Y. Maybe now is not the right time for that.
Hmm.
Um, but also from an economic perspective, these are kind of some challenging times. And
Right.
so if you want to move a certain amount of Cybertrucks, you do have to offer them at pretty good deals and pretty good prices.
So the one thing that they've done is offer these deals on the Foundation. They've got some, deals on the $80,000 version. But what they haven't done is come out with the single motor, like a
Yeah.
$60,000 version. So do you have any suspicions as to whether that's battery availability or whether that's just the ramp or whether I've had my thought has been that they, being such a completely new vehicle, radically new in so many different ways, they've had quite a few so-called recalls. And that's, that would be normal for a first-year car to
Mm.
have some more recalls than in a car that's been around for a while. But in this case, it's not shocking with all the changes. Maybe they were trying to get the car right before they went to the next level of production.
Yeah, I think it's maybe part of all that. I think battery constraints is certainly an issue. Elon talked about that in the last conference call. In terms of recalls and so on, as a Cybertruck owner, I haven't had one single issue with mine.
Nice.
Now, maybe I've just been lucky, but I feel like I put my truck through the paces. I drove 7,000 miles to Calgary, Canada and back
Right.
in one trip. And you'd think at that point that would be a pretty good stress test for it.
Yeah.
Didn't have a single issue. The only thing I've done is rotated the tires.
Hmm.
And so, and I haven't really heard from other owners that they're experiencing any kind of serious issues.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
some of the early buyers had some issues for
Mhm.
sure,
Mhm.
right? So I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's a great product and it'll do well over a period of time.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Well, sorry to interrupt your flow, but it just was on my heart and my mind.
Yeah. Yep. No, fair enough. All right, moving ahead, we've got this Megapack factory announcement yesterday. It's going to be in Texas,
Mhm.
and 1.6 million square foot over a couple of buildings, so a pretty sizable space. And they're expected to put in a couple hundred million into this facility. Um, Here's what it looks like now. It shows here the Tesla Empire warehouse just off of I-10. So if you wanted a building close to an interstate highway, this is about as close as you can get. Right? Maybe next time they can build it over top of the highway. Just drop the megapacks onto trucks as they move underneath. Um, and I think there's another building that's going to be built here, and it might be in this space right here. It's a logical spot that I can see.
Right.
There's an Amazon distribution center here. So this is the size of the building that we're talking about. These, Amazon distribution
Fine.
centers are pretty big
Mhm.
for scale. Um, So that's good. In terms of location, for those that aren't familiar, it's just a little bit west of Houston, which is a massive metropolitan area. and it's about 120 miles away from Giga, Texas, in Austin.
Okay.
And by the way, on the way, you pass through Bastrop, which is where the Boring Company headquarters are,
Oh,
as well as SpaceX, where they make the terminals, the factory for the terminals.
right, right.
So this will make for, a fun Tesla tour for people. You
Yeah.
can stop here and then keep going through. Um, but more importantly than that, when you consider the location of this, in Houston, there are a number of rail yards, and they're kind of shown here in the red circles.
Okay.
Not all these are actually train rail yards. Some of them are, places where there's restaurants and so on. But many of these are actually rail switch yards
Hmm.
for Union Pacific and BNSF, etc. Now, there's something even more important in this image than the rail yards. Randy, do you see what that is?
I was thinking it might be the port.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the Houston Ship Channel is a 50-mile long shipping channel out to the Gulf of America.
Hmm.
And the Houston, here it is here. Just to give some perspective again, here's Austin and here's Dallas up
Okay.
here in Houston. New Orleans and the Mississippi River up here.
Okay.
So if you want to put things on barge on ships, this is not a bad location to build it and then ship it out
Right.
from there.
Right.
Here's a bit closer, and this is a 50-mile long shipping channel, and it's one of the busiest seaports in the United States.
Hmm.
Top-ranked waterway in the United States for waterborne tonnage. It's held that top ranking since 2019.
Hmm.
Has more vessel traffic than the next three largest U.S. ports combined. So major, port. Okay. So that's a favorable thing if you're thinking about where am I going to locate a factory to produce a very heavy, difficult to move item.
Right. Right.
Moving it by rail, by truck, and by ship is a pretty nice option to have.
Yeah, and you have access with that port. Now you're talking about access to all of the east coast of South America, the east coast of the United States, as you
Yeah,
mentioned, up the Mississippi River to serve the Midwest, and even over to Europe.
that's right. Yep. And then this is kind of interesting from Tony the accountant. He pointed about the capital efficiency of this plant. And so they're using existing land and buildings, and they're putting in, according to him, 230 million investment.
Okay.
In the previous slide, it was just under 200 million. So in that range.
Mhm.
And it's expected that the revenue from this particular facility could be in the $8 to $10 billion a year range.
Right.
So that's not bad, and particularly if the margins on that are like 25% gross margins.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a $4 to $5 billion a year in gross profit. I'm sorry, two and a half billion. I'm sorry, I got my math wrong. 2 to 2.5 billion a year in gross profit on a $200 million investment.
Right.
Right. So that's ongoing. That's just not, investing 200 million and getting 2 billion back. It's 2 billion a year gross
Yeah,
profit.
and this seems to be way, way under reality. So they have to do something else with that building. Either they're going to build a lot more megapacks there, or they're going to build something else there. Maybe batteries, maybe vehicles, I don't know, but something else is going to be built in that building, or they're going to build 2 to 3, 4 times as many megapacks, because this is at 1.6 million, it'll be 4 times the size of Lathrop.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of, at least in my mind, a little bit of uncertainty around that number. This is from Tesla's 10K in 2018, which was the last time they reported the square footage of their various facilities.
Okay.
At that time, they reported square footage of Lathrop on two different lines here. One line, 885,000 square foot warehouse and manufacturing. Okay. And again, this may not be one building. This could be a collection of buildings.
Yes, I think it is. Yeah.
And then another one down here, the manufacturing building, 496,000.
Right.
And this could be the Megapack facility, just standalone. And these could be other facilities.
That answers a question that Brian Wong and I were talking about last night on this same subject. So that makes a lot of sense, because when Bradford Ferguson went down there, he pointed out there was all these other buildings, these support buildings,
There we go.
I think you have really figured it out. Yep.
So there's a number of different support buildings, and not even related to the Megapack.
Right.
But you can see here on this map, somebody's marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 8 buildings that belong to Tesla,
Right.
if I'm counting that correctly. So there's quite a footprint there. And again, I don't know if all of this is 1.38 million square feet, or, I'm not sure how the numbers actually work out there. Um, I'm not sure what the source of this is, but this is from Tesla, and they're talking about the Lathrop facility. So they've got the Tesla Energy Manufacturing,
Hmm.
and then castings and CNC manufacturing. I don't know how much space this takes. They have a vehicle logistics center. They have a global service manufacturing center and a global parts distribution center.
Right.
Now you can imagine this part of it could be quite a large facility.
Yeah, if you go back some of the old videos that I did with Bradford Ferguson, he goes around and he does name all these, and he knows which building is which. And yeah, I think this really does explain it, that maybe we're talking closer to 800,000 square feet. I mean, there was one building in Lathrop that was just for the kind of storage of finished megapacks that was overflow from the parking lot, because they can't. A lot of times they're going out in a big group, and so they store them over there. So uh, this makes a ton of sense. So maybe we are looking at more like 800,000 square feet needed for 40,000 gigawatts of production.
Yeah, and in that case, based on the numbers I've seen, the new Chinese Megapack factory is either 660,000 square feet or 880,000 square feet.
My number's 880, but I'll defer to your
Yeah. Well,
confusion.
I've seen both, and I'm not sure which to believe. I would guess it's probably on the larger side.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so the notion that the Chinese factory is, 2 or 3 times Lathrop, I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. I could imagine that Tesla's probably figuring out ways to be more efficient with the space that they are using.
Right.
And I would imagine that this new Texas facility they'll try to be even more efficient again.
Yeah.
So with a
So
1.6 million square foot building, the capacity of that may be quite a bit more than Lathrop, even though the size of the facility may not be that much bigger.
right. And I think what a lot of people are going off of, including Brian last night, is that Elon did say that just the Shanghai and Lathrop facilities together would be 2 to 3 times production currently in Lathrop.
Yeah.
He didn't make it very clear whether that meant there would be more out of Lathrop than they're getting now, or whether that meant that there would be, significantly more out of Shanghai.
Yeah. No, but either way, it's a good sign for the business
Yep.
growth, making the right moves. Based on my calculations, they need many more Megapack factories over the next
Many more.
decade.
Many more.
Yeah. This was also recent news. LG is building a 4680 or cell factory in Arizona. They've been building this, I think, for a year or two now. And they're supposed to start production of 4680 cells in the first half of 2026 to cover orders from Tesla and Rivian. So they're saying that they're on track for, spring production, so a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good sign.
Yep. Yep.
This factory has a capacity of 53 gigawatt hours. In this chart down here, it shows 43,
Mm.
but 36 gigawatt hours of that are 4680,
Mm.
and the rest of it is a LFP.
Okay.
So 4680 would go in a semi and Cybertruck, LFP would go into Megapack.
Right.
They also have a facility, a 26 gigawatt hour facility in Holland, Michigan. And they have a number of other joint venture facilities with the likes of GM, Stellantis, Honda, Hyundai,
Mm.
and other parts around the country.
Right.
So this factory, it looks like, is mainly for Tesla, but Rivian also is going to be buying batteries there from there. Okay.
Oh, useful. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let's go from useful to completely not useful. Your transition I think, is perfect here, Randy.
Okay. All right. There you go.
So MarketWatch yesterday reported that Tesla doldrums deepen in Germany as monthly sales plummet 76%.
76%.
Pretty bad. And they go on to say in the article that Tesla had a second straight difficult month in Germany. Registrations fell 76% in Europe's largest economy, right? Now, that was relative to a broader decline of 6.4% decline in the market. And EV sales had improved 31% year over year. So what's happening to Tesla? They're going down so much. Okay. Now, they do say here, Tesla also has just started accepting orders for a new Model Y in Europe. Now, they don't mention that production has been shut down.
Right.
They just say that they're accepting orders. So this is pretty intentionally misleading.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I'm actually a little surprised from MarketWatch. MarketWatch tends to be kind of one that I trust. This would not be surprising from Insider Business or, some of these others, but from MarketWatch, I am a little surprised.
I've noticed lately that their headlines on Tesla have been intentionally misleading.
I see.
Not just this one.
All right.
This isn't the first time. Yeah. Disappointing to say the least.
Disappointing.
This morning, Alex reported that in the UK, that the Model 3 was the second best-selling vehicle in February. Now we're, just under 2,000 units,
Right.
and the Model Y, 1,861. Only the Mini Cooper beat them. I guess it's the Mini Cooper with the Union Jack flag on top, because that is a pretty cool look on Mini Coopers. But anyway, second and third best vehicle in the UK in February. So not all is lost. The UK is pulling Europe back up here single-handedly.
Single-handedly.
And by the way, that was a 21% year-over-year increase.
Nice.
So UK is doing well.
Yeah,
in February.
it's probably because there's so many right-wing people in the UK that are now purchasing the Teslas because.
I suppose.
That must be it.
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. Yeah. All right. And by the way, on the Model Y, I believe we have confirmation now that the Model Y was the best-selling vehicle in the world in 2024. Not just EV vehicle.
Right.
Toyota Corolla was close, 1.08 million to Model Y's 1.09 million. RAV4, 1.02. And the Ford F-150, 900,000. So if you want to look at an opportunity for Cybertruck, there it is. Yeah.
Yep.
I think long term, it's going to chip into this truck market. Yeah. And of course, the Silverado, 640,000 units. So there's a couple of big opportunities there for Tesla.
Indeed.
The Camry has dropped all the way back down to what's that? The 8th position.
Right.
So, all right. One of the reasons I think the Model Y is doing so well, or has done so well over the last few years, being the number one selling vehicle for 2 years in a row, it's probably one of the safest vehicles on the planet, if not the safest. I think people are recognizing that.
Mm-hmm.
This is data from Tesla that was in their Q4 report. The red line there is Tesla's vehicles using Autopilot technology. It's the million miles driven before an accident occurs.
Yeah.
So that has doubled since Q4 of 2019. So over the course of 5 years, that has doubled. So you're half as likely to have an accident using FSD Autopilot
as you were 5 years ago.
As you were 5 years ago.
And that was already ahead of the rest of the pack.
That was already well ahead of the pack. Tesla vehicles not using Autopilot technology, I guess, has remained flat or dropped off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the US average has actually slightly increased over this time period.
And we do have these counter arguments saying that Teslas are more likely to be involved in an accident. I don't know how they can even come up with these stats. The suggestion is that Teslas are the Tesla drivers are that much worse. It has nothing to do with the product. It has to do with the drivers. So I don't know. What do you say about this, CERN.
Yeah, I think that's FUD.
I do too.
Yeah, the numbers don't bear that out. Again, this red line,
Right.
would capture that pretty nicely. Now, I guess you could say, if this blue line's going down, if
Yeah, yeah, right.
right, I guess you could make the argument if people are not using FSD, that looks like Tesla drivers are not improving in that regard.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. And then from a FSD perspective, Tesla tells us how many cumulative miles have been driven on FSD.
Mhm.
This is billions of miles. And so at the end of the year last year, we were close to 3 billion
Hmm.
cumulative FSD miles. Now, we got to 1 billion roughly on version 11 and earlier. And since then, version 12 and 13 have contributed 2 billion
Gotcha.
since March of 2024. Right. So it took all these years to get to 1 billion. And then in
Yeah.
9 months, we got 2 billion more.
Yeah.
And so the one thing that I've been tracking is, when Elon said all the way back in 2016 that he thought it would take 6 billion cumulative miles
Right.
to get to the point where we have worldwide regulatory approval.
Hmm.
And so the question is, when is that likely to be? Okay, so the red arrow on this chart is where we were at the end of the year.
Okay.
And the yellow arrow is the 6 billion number.
Okay. Oh.
Okay. So it's just around the corner. Here it is here. I think sometime this summer, or certainly no later than the end of September,
Hmm.
Tesla will achieve that 6 billion milestone.
Wow.
And so we're going to do that here in the next, 9 months. Well, sorry, 6 months
Yeah.
from now, but would have been not, including January, February, and then the rest of the year until September. It could possibly be this summer if more and more people start to use FSD or use FSD more frequently, then this could accelerate. When I updated this chart, there was an acceleration last quarter versus my estimates.
Okay.
So if there continues to be an acceleration in FSD usage and the amount of FSD miles, then it could be before the end of September.
Okay.
We hit that 6 billion mark. So that's encouraging.
So this will be part of the laws of scaling, right? So he's based his estimate of the 6 billion based on the scaling, providing the additional data necessary to be trained on and then put into the model.
Yeah, well, I think this is just, statistically speaking, how many miles are regulators going to want to see of data in order for them to feel that your system is safe enough to approve? Right. Now, there is the question of when is FSD going to be safer than a human?
Mm-hmm.
And I think AJ did a nice post here recently on this. So he talks about the amount of compute that Tesla's brought online.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I'll just take you through this real quick. He says a key driver of FSD progress is not absolute compute, how many GPUs, but the cumulative amount of compute deployed, i.e., it's a function of the number of GPUs and time. For this reason, not the height of the curve, but the area under the curve is the most correlated metric. Okay. So he says, if we apply this observation to FSD progress, we can note a few things. To get FSD version 12, which obviously included a lot of trial and error, Tesla had to deploy an all-time total of approximately 1.6 million weekly H100 equivalents of compute. And he calls that WHEs, but that's the number of sort of weekly H100 equivalents.
Okay.
Okay. And then for the next big leap forward from 12 to 13, it took Tesla approximately 1 year, at which time Tesla deployed an incremental approximately 2.2 million weekly H100 equivalents. Okay. And then he goes on. He says, since the launch of FSD 13.2 about 3 months ago, Tesla deployed another 0.8 million WHEs. And given Tesla's currently available 100,000 WHEs, it takes another 14 weeks for Tesla to deploy as much compute on the upcoming FSD version, let's call it V14 for now, as Tesla deployed on the step change from V12 to V13.2. 14 weeks puts us right into June the
Yeah.
months Tesla announced the launch of the lower cost vehicle and also aligns with the internal FSD target Elon disclosed in last year of mid 2025.
Hmm.
Okay.
So
And
those,
he concludes, he says, all this may mean nothing or to add to the mountain of breadcrumbs, all pointing in one direction, an imminent launch of a ride-hailing network powered by an improved next version of FSD.
he took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was going to
Yeah.
say.
And here's the chart closer up. Right. So it's not, where they are on the height of this.
Sure.
It's the area under the curve and the time that they had to operate all these H100s. Right. And so now they start here. And so you've got all these H100s that can work on a weekly basis. And so the amount of time that it takes to get to the next version is greatly shortened.
Mhm.
So I thought that was a particularly astute observation from AJ.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. And then Frida, this is a earlier post. And she's just talking about, scaling. Um, she's saying that there's a 1,000x improvement in the disengagement ratio since January 2024. So she expects FSD to be safer than a human driver by second quarter of 2025. And again, breadcrumbs all lining up to the same date, right? The scaling momentum is set to continue, driven by more data, advanced hardware, AI5, and greater training capacity. And then she says, few truly appreciate it, but with features like integrated unpark, reverse park, improved camera cleaning, pulling over, and precise driveway/garage parking, FSD V13 is transforming into a truly complete product. So as the product scales and improves, the dream of robotaxis is rapidly moving closer to reality. And here's our little chart here, which is quite interesting because you look at the rate of improvement in the disengagement ratio compared to the human driver on the right side in gray.
Mhm.
And you get, V12.3, and it's not even close to a human.
Mhm.
10x improvement, 3x,
Yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden another jump, and this is V13, and you're still compared to a human, you're still below. And then all of a sudden the next version, boom, you're
Boom.
there.
Mhm.
Right. And as human drivers, I think a lot of us said, they're so far away from being close to a human. But the reality is it's just the next version, the next leap, and we're there.
Mhm.
So again, all things are pointing towards this summer. Uh, here's a video of a guy driving his vehicle in a parking lot, or the FSD's driving into a parking lot, and the car is going to park.
Mhm.
Now, just notice here, this woman here is walking, and she slips between these two vehicles. And as the car approaches, it waits there instead of driving by. Now, it turned out she went down the passenger side of the vehicle and went around to the driver's side and got in this white Tesla here. This car waited. The lights came on this Tesla, started to back out. Backed out, and then this car pulled forward and went into that spot. It waited for the woman to get in her car and then take that parking spot.
Hmm.
That was kind of interesting. I've not seen that before.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it turns out you can see on the screen there were other empty parking spots.
Yeah.
It didn't need to wait for that one,
Yeah.
but it did.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that it went down that row, maybe there were no parking spots on this row, but I thought that was interesting behavior.
Yeah. Very interesting behavior. We saw one the other day too, where maybe you have this one. I don't know, but it attempted to park and decided it was too narrow, and backed out of it and went on to another one.
Mm, yeah. Well, I've got some screenshots here from China, and when you
Oh,
look at these Chinese videos, it's chaos.
yeah.
There's people that just walk out onto the road,
Yeah.
and people on scooters and bikes, right? And people just strolling on the road and so on, other oncoming traffic, and people from the side just crossing willy-nilly. So the car has to be a bit more aggressive here than what I've experienced it being. Right, just people just walking across, and yet this car handled that perfectly. Here's another example. It's in the left lane here. and it goes to pass this car that's going a little slow, the black car ahead,
Mhm.
and gets into the right lane.
Mhm.
And then immediately there's a stopped car with a traffic cone, in front of it, behind it. And FSD notices that and pulls into the next lane, goes around it. So we're seeing some behavior in China where, again, they haven't had the ability to test on real world data just how remarkable it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's all very encouraging. Um, and then to continue with the Frida theme,
Mm.
let's talk about bots. So she's saying that Tesla's $10 trillion bet on Optimus, why it's not as crazy as it sounds, right? Um, and she's just talking about, ownership of humanoid robots should easily surpass cars. Why? Robots unlock vastly more use cases than cars, which are limited to just transportation. Now, cars transport people and things, so they're very useful, but bots can do a lot more. And then, of course, the cost. The robots are expected to cost about half as much as cars. Well, that
Mhm.
remains to be seen.
Right. Right.
Half as much certainly to make, right? And maybe ultimately half as much to buy, but that's down the road.
Right.
So, she talks about how Elon envisions this one-to-one human to robot ratio, meaning a future with 100 billion humanoid robots. And when you break that down, she says it doesn't sound unreasonable. So she's got, 500 million bots. The number of global passenger vehicles, 1.5 billion, 2.3 billion global households, and 8.2 billion global population.
Mhm.
Okay. And here she's talking about the ramp. A 5 to 10x per year ramp for Optimus in the first 1 to 2 years isn't as far-fetched as it seems. Yes, they require an entirely new supply chain and novel tech. Um, but at scale, Tesla could be manufacturing 1 million Optimus per year. A staggering thought. And in my mind, actually, that seems low.
Yes.
Um, and she's just saying that humans tend to miss paradigm shifts in tech when they're still in their early stages. But the TAM math for humanoids looks almost unbelievable, but it's also logically sound. And she's saying 2025 could be Tesla's most pivotal year, the start of the robotics era and one of the biggest tech opportunities in history. It's both a little scary and incredibly exciting. And so here she's talking about the ramp of Optimus. The Model Y in 3 years, 15x, went from 80,000 vehicles to 1.2 million.
Hmm.
And she's talking about Optimus going from, 10,000 in 2025 to 1 million in 2027, 2029. Now, I think, again, this is still off because
Right.
I believe they can make 20 Optimus for every vehicle,
Yes.
right? Just in terms of moving the mass, it's just much easier to make Optimus than it is to make a car. You don't need a gigafactory.
Had
So,
had this conversation with Jeff, and he obviously has a lot of experience in consumer electronics. Brett Adcock had a post the other day where he said that making the bot is a lot more like consumer electronics than it is making a car. And so Jeff agreed that the ramp would be much faster than a car, and the ultimate capability, in terms of unit volume, would be much easier to get to big numbers than automobiles.
yeah. Now, there may be other constraints besides the ramp. I don't think the ramp is the constraint. The ramp might be, is the technology fully ready?
Hmm.
That might be the constraint. Or perhaps like battery constraint or something like that, right? I don't think the constraint is, can Tesla ramp to 1 million plus units? I
Right.
think they could actually ramp to, 5, 10, eventually 20 million units in fairly short order.
Hmm.
Maybe not in 3 years, but certainly over five,
Hmm.
right? But, will the tech be ready? Does it make sense for them to ramp at that scale at that point?
Right.
And all signs are pointing towards yes, I think the
Yes,
tech will be ready.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
All signs are pointing
Yeah.
towards.
Now, here's a Tesla Optimus copycat,
Mhm.
Kepler Robotics. And they showed a video of their robot, using its dexterous hands. They have flexible sensors, 25 high resolution touch points on each finger,
Mm.
25 on each finger,
Mm.
which can sense and adapt to objects of any shape, allowing it to perform tasks accurately. So here it's picking up a water bottle. Here it's a cube. I think this might be a credit card. And I can't quite tell what's in the hand on this side. But here's an example of picking up an egg. And very similar to the videos we saw from Optimus, Tesla year or a year and a half ago now, the sensing on the fingers.
Yeah. So I wonder, you got to be really, really careful with those eggs, though.
Very
They're,
expensive eggs.
they're expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It didn't break it. It successfully picked it up and put it in that little container. And then just to show you how strong it is, here's a 15-kilogram dumbbell
Mm.
it picked up.
Hmm.
So a lot of the Chinese bot makers have been criticized for just focusing on agility and movement. This
Hmm.
is one video we've seen of the bot actually using its hands.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, again, don't be too critical of the Chinese. They're working on everything,
Oh yeah. Well,
right?
and everybody is. I
Yeah.
don't think this is. I think this is going to be a winner take most for Tesla, but only because of their overall combination of skills, not necessarily because they will make a robot that is significantly more useful. I think there will be useful and one of the things that's going to be weird, I think, and I really don't know how to plan it. That's not the right word. How to estimate what I think is going to be the result. I think that some of these companies are going to sell them for normal margins rather than trying to maximize or optimize their potential price point or rental point, which is going to make for a weird market if some do. If Tesla decides, no, we're only going to rent them for 120,000 a year, and you got somebody else out there renting them for 10,000 a year or selling them for 30,000, it's going to make for a very interesting marketplace. So it's all to be determined.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of those things. It's the same issue we have with the robotaxi. Yes, you could undercut price dramatically, but what you really should do is just sell it where the supply meets the demand.
Right.
That's the optimal point. You don't need to do anything further than that. If you do that, you're leaving a lot on the table,
Right.
unless you're explicitly trying to kill your competition. And of course, that's
Right.
to your point. That's maybe what they're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Particularly if it's a company that's supported by the Chinese government, they would maybe have every incentive to try to kill any competitors out there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see how that evolves. I still maintain, I think that it's highly unlikely that Chinese humanoid robots are allowed to operate in the United States.
That's possible. Yeah.
And I also expect that then that means Tesla Optimus may not be allowed to operate in China unless relationships change.
Hmm.
But we'll see.
Yep.
Um, Optimus must have a unhinged mode. And then Tesla Optimus responds, "Are you sure about that?" So, we've all been playing around with Grok a little bit. Do
Yeah.
you really want your robot, swearing at you like a unhinged teenager? Maybe not.
I used the argumentative mode last night, and I thought to myself, I've already got that. I've already got that person in my life. I need another argumentative.
Right. Well, that's when you're talking to yourself in the mirror, though, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Actually, I was thinking of Larry.
Oh, there you go. Good point. Yeah. Um, this was another video from yesterday. This bot, this woman pushed this bot down. She was directed to do so.
Yes.
The bot fell on the floor pretty hard.
Yeah.
Kind of lay there for a minute, kind of wondering if it's going to get up, and
Yeah.
then quickly popped up to its feet, stood up, and then started to walk towards her. So initially she's smiling there, and I apologize for the quality of this. It's just screenshots.
Uh-huh.
She's smiling. She thought it was cute.
Yes.
And then the robot starts to walk towards her, and you can see she's starting to retreat. Now, this guy here on the left, he's controlling the bot. So the bot
Yeah.
wasn't doing this autonomously.
Okay. Okay.
But even so, because it was moving towards her, she started to get a little scared. She's got her hand on her chest there saying, should I be afraid of this?
Yeah.
Right. And she's retreated now around the corner, and the bot is now turning to pursue her. And
Oh.
she's ready to run here, I think. So
Oh.
the lesson here is, Randy, don't hurt the bots.
Don't hurt the bots.
Yeah.
I saw somebody posting about this video yesterday, and they went, "These bots have memories. You may not want to be on its bad side even now because it may come get you later."
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a transition. This is a any day sighting in Texas now. Just a typical day in Texas. You could be riding your bicycle along and there's a rocket ship in front of you. Isn't that cool?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like it a lot. Yeah.
So I don't know when the show will air, but we're expecting a Starship launch again tonight. We'll see if that
Yeah.
goes off.
Yeah.
Been delayed a couple of days. Starship 8. But this would be on a bucket list, I think, of things to see.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. Speaking of space, we had a landing on the moon recently.
It's true.
Um, and so Intuitive Machines, I'm sorry, this is today. This Intuitive Machines is today. They're supposed to be landing. I'm not sure if they have yet. And then a couple days ago, we had Firefly Aerospace
Yep.
landed on the moon. And this is the image. Elon congratulated them on their efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the first successful landing other than the United States, Soviet Union, China, India, and Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And they were carrying 10 scientific payloads to conduct research during a 14-day mission, part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program.
Right.
So just in the space of a week, we've got 2 landings on the moon here.
Yeah, and one of them is going to be drilling down into the crust.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here's an image from the final descent. Looks like somebody's been playing golf up there.
Yeah.
A few divots. And I thought this is pretty cool, just the images as it was landing.
Yeah.
Looks like a pretty harsh environment, doesn't it?
It's probably all computer generated.
Right. And then as the dust cleared, this beautiful
Yeah.
image of its own shadow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then it reminds us of the Apollo 11 computer generated image, I guess, Randy. Is that what it is? On
Right.
July 20th, 1969.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a nice achievement to them. That was impressive. And with that, that brings us to the end of our prepared remarks.
To the very end, indeed. Well, you covered really good stuff today. You had a couple of the things that I was thinking we might have talked about after the show. You actually covered, the issue of the declining sales in Europe and some of these other things that are going on right now. So that was you've left me speechless.
I'm looking forward to the headlines next month when they say Tesla sales inexplicably explode 200%.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think we'll get that kind of headline?
No.
Or they'll just ignore it?
Well, no, they won't ignore it. What they'll do is they'll combine the entire first quarter. They'll say, Tesla ekes out a gain or Tesla's still off, if it's off by 5% or something at the end of March. Because I've been saying for weeks, we won't know until the end of April. We will not know at the end of the first quarter where we stand. It's going to take at least probably maybe into May, but certainly it'll be the end of April before we see how the ramps are doing, how the sales are doing. Even with like Cybertruck, what happens if they announce tomorrow that they're going to have the one motor version at 60 grand or something? Well, all of a sudden that unlocks a lot of people that I think are still waiting in line. We've heard nothing about the waiting list. I know that Brian Wong has 20 on order on reservation. I have 1. We haven't gotten an email for ages.
I think you can take possession of any of them if you want to.
I got a new phone. And apparently I have forgotten to set it up. It's not supposed to be ringing in the middle of my shows. With spam calls, of course. That's the only
course
we get. Yeah.
Well, unless it's Tesla saying you can configure your Cybertruck.
Configure my Cybertruck.
You might want to take it.
That's entirely possible. But so I think these are things that people are not taking into consideration. I did see an odd thing today. I don't know if you saw it, Cern, that the Japanese Model S, I think just the S, or was it S and X?
Maybe S and X.
Were both being discontinued in Japan.
Yeah.
And it didn't say until the refresh. It just said, we're done in Japan.
They talked about ending production, but they don't make them in Japan. They make them in California.
Right.
So yeah, that was a little bit odd.
Yeah, that was very odd. I don't know whether that
Yeah,
was completely wrong or whether it was whether it was just half wrong and that we know that there's conversation that there's going to be a refresh.
sure. Now, I don't imagine that the S and X are particularly successful in Japan. They prefer smaller vehicles
Right.
generally, Japan.
Yes.
So it just may be a market decision that it's not worth selling them there.
Yes.
Or maybe there's some change coming that we don't know about.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Very interesting update. Well, sir, I was going to say, well, sir, and it's another weird variation on your name. Is that I said sir and I couldn't stop myself from adding the N.
You can call me sir if you'd like to, Randy. That's okay. Just don't call me a particle basher.
A particle basher.
Yes,
Oh, basher. Yeah.
the CERN research facility in Europe. That's the particle accelerator. I'm not a particle basher.
You're not a particle basher. Are you 100% certain?
Certainly, yes.
Oh,
I think we better end it there.
I'm gonna say
yeah.
we're acting like AOC. She just keeps digging. She says the other day that Elon is not an engineer or a scientist. And then that was ridiculed all over X. No, she comes back the next day and she keeps it up. It's like when you're digging. So should we, CERN, it's been great having you. By the way, he's got a company. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's just brilliant. Oh, brilliant advice, even better. And apparently it has to do with the way that he gets a great shine off the top. No, I did.
You really are digging today.
So look him up under Brilliant Advice. And CERN, thank you so much for coming on as always. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.
I wish I could say it was my pleasure, Andy.